been battling the flu for a few days, guys. But we did get through about 10 minutes going through some of the things that stood out in this game. I want to pick back up with some of it. I hope some of you will rejoin me. That was a nasty bit of coughing. I didn't have my water with me. So we've had technical glitches today, then I've had my own glitches. But it's too important this game was, I thought, for Arkansas because you had a revenge factor coming into it against Oklahoma, and that honestly became kind of a backdrop because Trevin Brazile, you lose a player like that. That means so much to your team, especially in the front court. I think Arkansas's got an elite back court, multiple options there to play at very high levels, game in and game out. Even if one or two guys are off a little bit, you've still got two or three, I think, backcourt players that can play at a all league caliber level, game to game. And so the front court, not necessarily. Trevin Brazile was that guy, and you're not going to replicate what he brings to the table. Look, Usman even said in his press conference the other day that he thought Brazil's one of the top five players in the league. That's probably true, and now he's out. And so I think you come into this game figuring out how do you supplement, how do you fill the void that a Brazile that's there with him out. Now Arkansas had learned how to play without Nick Smith Jr. for 6 games and had tough games over in Maui. I think again the difference is they had a lot of their answers in that backcourt. Arkansas's got a deep front court. We know what some of the pieces are there, but no one that really brings that three-level ability and versatility that Brazile has in stretching the floor and some of the other things. And so I think this was a game where we really saw Jordan Walsh as a 3-4 combo. He looked the most comfortable he's looked to me in a while, and he was tough. He was tough around the basket on offense with putbacks. He's been good around the basket, but then he adds the 2 of 5 from 3 today. It helps stretch the floor. That's what a Brazile does. I thought he was very good defensively. Makhi Mitchell with back-to-back games where I really felt like it's because he's been a productive guy. He's been mostly a first-half guy. Double-double in Arkansas's grinding win over Greensboro midweek game. And then today, the 10 points, but he gets 4 assists, playing some of that two-man game with Nick Smith Jr. making backdoor cuts. He finished off some good passes from Anthony Black. Nice spin move to get baseline and get to the basket. I thought he was a pest. Just tough defensively against Tanner Groves inside. Makhi ends up leading the team in rebounds today with 6. And I mentioned those 4 assists, but again, blocks, steals, he's doing a little bit of everything. And then Kamani Johnson comes in and helps the team out, as did Devo Davis off that bench. And so I've talked about the supporting cast. I really haven't talked about Ricky Council and Nick Smith Jr., both players over 20 points today. Council leads this team in scoring, second in the SEC at over 18 points a game. He comes in today, and I thought once he got going in the first half, he in combination with Smith were giving Arkansas some offensive punch when it seemed like Oklahoma wouldn't miss. And Arkansas it got to a point where it was trading baskets and hanging in there, keeping that deficit after trailing by 9, getting it down to 1 or 2 possessions. And then I think Arkansas just kept getting tougher and tougher in that paint area on both ends. And really defensively, a lot of deflections, block shots, steals. Arkansas ends up with 10 steals today, 5 blocks. Oklahoma had less than half of that combined. I think maybe 4 or 5 steals in a block. But Arkansas more athletic, more physical, quicker, I thought, around the basket. And eventually those things started to pay off because this was an OU team that shot lights out a season ago on its way to a 22-point win. Today it also shot very well from the field. But as the game wore on, Arkansas had long stretches where it gave OU fits, and some of it were just those hustle plays. At the end of the first half, Devo Davis pokes the ball away. OU setting up after Arkansas finally takes a lead. OU has a chance on its last possession to get the lead back. And Davis pokes the ball away from the point guard, dives on it, draws a foul, makes both free throws. Arkansas goes up 3 at the halftime. And I really thought that play was a microcosm of the kind of plays all day long, really, Arkansas used, and it's to its advantage to really end up what I thought it wasn't a blowout, but Arkansas led by double digits most of the second half, led by as many as 16 points, and they end up winning by 10. So you don't exactly get a scoreboard revenge result from last year when you lost by 22, but you win by double digits, you led by 16, and you end up shooting better than a team that shot 57% from the field this year. Last year, Arkansas's 34 or something percent from the field. Today, it's close to 59%. Arkansas more than doubled, actually doubled Oklahoma at the free throw line in terms of makes, 14 makes to 7. Arkansas shoots 19 free throws to only 9 for OU. That's big for this team because we know Arkansas is not a great three-point shooting team. They got to do it in blue-collar ways, and you got to win those free throw battles. Uh, Considering OU's average points allowed, right, this was a team, just reading a comment there, this was a team that was holding teams in the 50s, and it's not like they just, played a rent-a-win schedule. Here's a team that's had 4 games away from home prior to today, won 3 of those, down in Florida, winning that ESPN Events Invitational. They knocked off teams like Nebraska, Seton Hall, Ole Miss, tough road loss at Villanova, earlier, I think last weekend. And so this was a team that's been through some battles, but really holding teams down with field goal percentage down around 40%, keeping teams under 30% from 3 on the season, like I said, keeping teams averaging at less than 60 points. So Arkansas, if it's a chess match, it looked like OU was repeating what it did last year. And in a sense, from the field, when you look at the overall field goal percentage, it did. It's just that Arkansas was so much better in the turnover game. +6 in turnovers, +7 in points off turnovers, dominating in the paint. I thought Arkansas's defense, for the most part, was much tougher than OU's around the basket and preventing drives. And it ends up being a 58-44 advantage at points in the paint. That's dominating a team that gets to its spots very well. OU does a great job of manufacturing easy shots for guys, and you saw that today. I mean, so Oklahoma, the Sooners end up shooting around 57% for the game. Arkansas is closer to 59. Arkansas wins that as well. Really, OU was +2 on the boards. Little misleading. Arkansas's +3 in second chance points, which is kind of a rebounding after the fact stats. Arkansas actually wins that. Arkansas was +2 in fast break. So pretty much across the board, Arkansas was in some ways a little bit better, in some ways dominant. And when I say dominant, I'm going back to blue collar, points in the paint, forcing steals, blocking shots, and winning those battles. Because to me, those are effort plays, and that's what the difference was today. I thought Arkansas was much better in those areas. And a guy like Jordan Wall stood out to me. A guy like Devo Davis in moments, Kamani Johnson battling, Makai Mitchell battling, Ricky Council and Nick Smith Jr., I thought, offensively, 26 and 21 points respectively. We know Nick didn't finish that game. He's being evaluated. I've heard from a couple of sources that he's going to be okay. But he's had issues with that knee. He didn't finish the game. AB came out for a little bit and had to be looked at. He got nicked up a little bit. Last thing Arkansas needs are some, everlasting injuries after losing Brazil for the season and missing Nick so much early on. But you get a week off. I say a week off, a week between games. Arkansas will play Bradley in another neutral site game. It's in Little Rock, North Little Rock at Simmons Bank Arena, but we know that's playing away from home. It's a different, not a place Arkansas is used to playing in and game out on its home schedule. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just saying it'll be another test for Arkansas. Last year, Arkansas, after getting blown out by OU, comes to North Little Rock and loses to Hofstra. So back-to-back losses the way it played out last year. Arkansas, by the way, now 10 games into the season, 9-1, same record it had last year after losing OU. But I think Arkansas's got to feel a lot better about itself. And look, the backcourt, there are no question marks for me in this Arkansas backcourt for the most part when Nick Smith is healthy. Because now Ricky Council has proven he's an elite scorer and can facilitate. He had 5 assists today. We know Nick Smith Jr. is an elite scorer, back-to-back 20-plus point games. Last 3 games, he's been in the starting lineup, and he's averaging nearly 19.7 points a game himself. And then we know Anthony Black is just like a utility guy. He can score. He proved that in Maui with Nick out, 20 back-to-back 26-point games. But today he goes 4-4 for 8 points, 5 assists, 4 rebounds, I think a couple of steals and a block. So he just does a little bit of everything, plays within himself. He did have 5 turnovers today, but Anthony Black, he's always a box plus when he's on the court, and he really helps Arkansas get things right for the most part. And again, when you look at shooting percentages, OU started at some point, they'd made 8 straight shots. They started 13-17. That's over 76%. At that point, they were 4 of 6 from 3, so 67% there. So even though they end up with a solid shooting number at the end of the game, just under 50% from 3 and just over 57% overall, Arkansas actually got that team cooled down long enough to take this game over. And Arkansas authored its own masterclass on offense. I mean, I just feel like the Ricky Council drives, the Nick Smith Jr. drives, The work that Makai was doing. I thought the two-man game at times, Arkansas's 19 assists really helped the Hogs, but some of it was the bigs and players that don't typically always assist pitching in that as well. So I thought there was a lot of good interaction for Arkansas offensively. But again, to me, this boils down to Arkansas's dominance in the paint and those hustle plays. I can repeat it over and over again. When you're blocking shots, getting deflections, getting steals, and the other team can't answer that, that was huge. We've seen Arkansas play down to its competition in turnovers. And today, +6 there and +7 in points off turnovers, absolutely huge in a game like this. And I think that was the difference. Okay, let's read some of the comments. The cool down started with a block from AB. That's right. Anthony Black had a block. Jordan Walsh had a block. I thought Makai Mitchell gave Tanner Groves fits when he tried to play him one-on-one inside. Mitchell waited on him. Mitchell did a good job being patient defensively. If you remember in the previous game against Greensboro, held his ground, didn't leave his feet too soon, got some block shots and gave that team trouble around the basket as well. OU has a different standard and different level of talent, but I don't think Groves was up to the challenge today. He got in foul trouble. I really liked it, by the way, when he picked up his third foul early in the second half, and Sherfield had missed some time in the first half. The last 5 minutes, I think, in Arkansas outscored OU by 8 points to take that 3-point lead. But Groves comes out early second half with 3 fouls, and what does Musselman do? He puts AB with all that size down in the post to post up Sherfield, trying to hang his third foul on him and get him out of the game. And again, this is X's and O's chess, master class chess playing between coaches. Porter Moser is one of the best in the business. Everybody knows that. And a lot of the stuff that he dialed up for his team today was working offensively against Arkansas. Arkansas was just a tougher, more talented team. At the end of the day, that's what mattered. And again, I go back to the gritty, grinding plays. This is an OU team. When you look at it, what it was doing statistically, defensively against teams, Arkansas shattered all those ceilings today. I mean, shattered them. It wasn't even close. And so, huge win for Arkansas. When we start looking ahead, we're winding down the non-conference. No, Groves isn't athletic, but he's crafty. He's got a lot of moves. It's a good comment. He's got a lot of moves around the basket, trying to use his pivot foot up and under. Makai Mitchell was having none of it, and he stayed home, stayed patient, and athleticism and length and strength won out in those situations. And so just because a guy's not necessarily athletic doesn't mean he can't be effective. Groves can face up, knock down a three. He did knock down one in that run. But to hold him today, I think it was 6 points and 4 rebounds after, he had a good game last year. I think 11 points and maybe 6 or 7 rebounds. But, you basically cut him in half production-wise and got him out of the game. Yeah, I'm missing a lot of your comments, so let's do better on that. Arkansas much more athletic. I saw that too. Better length, better athleticism. The Razorbacks were the better team today. And that ended up proving out. Again, Arkansas's not always very efficient offensively. Against this team, they had to be. And so I think there's some mental toughness that goes in with that skill and athleticism today. Arkansas was really good with the basketball, not protecting it. Low turnover game for Arkansas. It's not always that way. Winning that battle decisively, I've talked about that, but knocking down shots, Ricky Council is one of the toughest shot makers, but he got some of his drives crossing players up and just out quicking them and manhandling them. He got to the rim and had his way, and we saw Nick Smith Jr.'s little bag of goodies twisting and getting into the paint with little floaters, runners, going glass, those backdoor cuts, getting that steal in that run early in the second half where he goes in and dunks the ball, and Arkansas goes back up by 7. I thought that was big. You had to take a timeout. And, again, I keep talking about, there are stretches of games where you're playing without Makai and you've got Kamani in there. Kamani's doing his job, man, playing really solid basketball. You saw Devo Davis, I thought, took a couple of early shots and then settled down and played within the strengths of this game. Great game going on now between Alabama and Houston. Good. I'll check out that result later. Obviously, Houston's number 1. Alabama's ranked ahead of Arkansas right now. We'll see how things play out. Typically, SEC teams this time of year somehow find a way to get more respect than Arkansas. And then Arkansas, we know how the story ends each year. But let's see how it plays out. Arkansas still got a long way to go, especially without Trevin. Let's get to some more of these comments. I hope people continue to join us. It's been a rough day, guys. There were technical glitches. I couldn't get the pregame, work through all that for postgame. I was concerned about that. And then I had a coughing fit. I've been dealing with the flu the last few days, and we had to abruptly end that first one. Amazing that Arkansas has two premier scorers like Council and Smith. It's a luxury. Last year you kind of lived and died by the decision making of JD Notae. Stanley Amudi was a guy that could score. He was especially effective in once SEC play started. He ended up being Arkansas's highest percentage 3-point shooter once SEC play began. But he wasn't really a shot creator. He was a guy that kind of lived off the creativity of others and then was really good in his spots. Mid post, some of the things he did, but he wasn't a shot creator. Nick Smith Jr. and Ricky Council 4 are shot creators, and on some level, Anthony Black can be. We've seen him do it. He didn't have one outlier game. He had back-to-back 26-point games, and then he's had other double-figure scoring games for Arkansas, second on the team in scoring coming into today. So, this is a backcourt that's elite, in my opinion. It's going to continue to prove to be so. And then as long as Devo Davis is continuing, a double-double with 3 steals last game, today made a lot of plays that were important for the Razorbacks. Razorback Nation traveled well. Muss and the team felt it. Of course, this is the thing about Arkansas sports. You're in Tulsa. You're as close to that event, to that venue, as the Oklahoma Sooners, where Norman is, where they play. And Arkansas is going to show up and represent, and the fans were there. You don't think those players feed off it? Of course they do. And you've got 11 newcomers this year. Kamani Johnson and Devo Davis know the feeling. A lot of these guys now are seeing it for the first time. And, I think Ricky Council was asked about it, and he said it didn't matter where they play, fans were going to show up for the Hogs. And so, and I thought, again, Jordan Walls, here's a guy that he and his family put out some interesting tweets in the last couple of days. And I thought he really elevated himself today. I thought Jordan Walls looked like a 5-star talent in every phase of the game and played 31 minutes. So it wasn't like it was just spot duty. And this guy finished the game. And I thought, again, I think Jordan Walls, in concert with others, are going to be the big pieces to maybe, filling that void left behind by Brazile. He won't do it by himself, but today I thought he did it more than anybody because Makai played like Makai's been playing. And he's still hovering around that 20, 22-minute mark. Jordan Walls with those 31 minutes, 12 points, that was huge. Devo had his moments, but overall his minutes usually aren't wasted. No, Devo was a key in this win today. There's no doubt about it. I think the play he made at the end of the first half was huge. Some of the things he did guarding Sherfield for a stretch in this game when Sherfield was awfully quiet, you can thank Devo Davis for some of that work defensively. And again, Kamani, his work, his impact doesn't always show up with production on a stat sheet, although he had some of that today. It's just the physicality and toughness. And he seems to make plays in moments where Arkansas needs him. Late in the game, Arkansas, Devo misses a free throw, and, it's still theoretically in doubt the game, the outcome, even though Arkansas had a lead, and Kamani gets a putback. Jordan Walsh was battling on that offensive rebound possession as well. So I think, again, I go back to several guys today stepping up, but it's unmistakable that Arkansas's backcourt's the strength of this team, and to do the work that backcourt did today against OU. I don't care how much of an athleticism, talent level advantage Arkansas had. Arkansas was left no doubt which backcourt was superior. As good as Sherfield was, when you look at his overall numbers, that's one guy, and Arkansas has 3 or 4 guys that can do damage, and we saw that today. I thought it was huge. I think Eric Musselman, he didn't, that loss last year didn't sit well with him. He got tossed from that game, but there was revenge factor for him, no matter what's said about it. You watch Kamani for 2 seasons at ULR. Yeah, Kamani's a below the rim battler, man. Guy that gets the free throw line, gets those offensive rebounds. He's a better offensive rebounder than he is a defensive one, really. But you love him. You love his attitude. You love the fact that he plays within himself. He's a great teammate, too. I like him in 2-man games sometimes because he knows not to fool around and mess around trying to be cute. He executes. And so I think that's something that you like with Kamani Johnson on the floor as a staff, a Razorback coaching staff, and as a fan base, paying attention to basketball and what works and what doesn't. Again, we need to find out more. I really hope we'll learn something soon. It may be a day or so before we find out what's going on with Nick Smith Jr. I'm being told it's not a big deal, but that doesn't mean that doesn't equate to something that we've already seen, which could be rest, could be management, could be time out. Who knows? I don't want to speculate. I'm just saying, here's a young man that's since he's been back on the floor has been outstanding in my opinion. He's 50% from the field today, scoring at all three levels again, doing it in a variety of ways, and getting to that free throw line, he was perfect there. Graham didn't play well. Someone's making that comment. He didn't do much. He got a point. It wasn't his game today, but at least he got an opportunity, and he'll get more opportunities. It was great seeing him jumping up and clapping for teammates in the second half. Graham's going to be a guy that's going to help this team somewhere. It's going to, I fully believe that. And again, we could talk about rotations and the fact that Musselman's going to stick tight. Sometimes 5 guys playing most of the minutes, 6, maybe a 7th guy. But now he's got more options on who to bring in at spot duty, certain things. Today it was Graham for just a few minutes. And so you start to see the guys who play kind of expanding to 9 or 10 sometimes. And so even though the rotations are still tight minute-wise, there's more options for him to plug and play Musselman as needed, which gives him more matchup versatility. Arkansas is probably going to be playing more small ball going forward than when Brazile was here, and he could get on the court with Makai or Kamani. But you saw Jordan Walsh, who's versatile at 3-4 combo. I've always called him a combo. He's not just a true wing or small forward. There's some 4 stuff he can do because he's really good around the basket at times. All that length and athleticism, and some of the things he does defensively, he can match up with other 4s and hold that down with 3 other guards / wings on the court with one of the bigs. And so I think that versatility may be what ends up paying off for Arkansas as much as anything as they move on without Brazile. But it'll be game to game. I don't expect him to be perfect, and I think other guys like Graham will do stuff later. Definitely believe Muss has more options than his traditional 6-7 lineup. More options, but at the end of the day, if you look at the box score, you're still going to see 5 or 6 guys playing the heavy minutes, typically maybe 7, but you're seeing more guys check into the game, even if it's for 3 minutes or maybe 6 minutes. And you're buying time with some of that, and some of it's matchup advantage. And in the past, he hasn't been able to count on guys. Sometimes didn't feel like he could for 3, 4, or 5 minutes. Now he does. So we'll see how it plays out. Musselman changes things up mid-season. He has the last 2 years. We'll see if he feels like he needs to do that later. But right now, there's been some committee effort off that bench in small roles in concert with some of the bigger share of minutes and roles that have been handed out. And again, I think Arkansas's got a good thing going right now, even without Brazile, because of guys like Kamani and Makai being consistent. First, it was Kamani who was the one guy you could count on to be consistent. Now you're getting that from Makai. If Arkansas keeps that going and a guy like Jordan Walsh continues to step up and maybe Graham in moments, Arkansas is going to be just fine on that front line. And then the backcourt again, I don't have any concerns about it other than potential injuries, and we know we have to keep an eye on that for the Razorbacks. But what a big win today! You're joining me live, Hogville Net YouTube. We got the post game in. Go to hogville.net for all of our written content. I've already got the good part of a game story put up. I just need to go back and add Musselman's quotes. Those came in late, and I was coming on here, so I need to read through those and add those quotes to the game story. Dudley Dawson's going to keep doing his outstanding work covering the opposing team and that perspective. If you're following football right now, it is so busy. Even though the regular season's over, you got a ball game, you got portal, you got coaches, you got the carousels, you got Otis Kirk writing a trillion stories as he goes, covering all of it at hogville.net. All of our content is free as always, and I think we've got the best lineup of guys covering sports. Because then they cover, there's more coverage than just the big 3 also for Arkansas fans that like all of it. Good stuff, Kevin. Well, thank you. Let's read some, let's see, RC, the best looking scorer in the SEC right now. He is, and you know what? He's not a big volume 3-point guy, but we saw him today with that dagger step back. He tried another one, he missed it, but he minimizes what's not in his wheelhouse, only 2 attempts. So if he gives you 1 or 2 threes a game, yet he's getting downhill and he's got that pull-up game to boot, he's just a tough matchup. You see him crossing guys over on the dribble. He's quick. He's big at 6'6". He's athletic. And then when he gets to the basket, he can play off contact. He can make a tough shot. He can double clutch, go glass. I've seen him finish left and right.